Did you ever want something so bad you could taste it? Whether it be that fabulous new job, meeting that significant other, or winning a contest. You wanted it, you worked for it, and you knew that it was yours. So what do you do when things take an unexpected turn? A close friend of mine shared what happened to her recently. She was up for an award. It was the Oscars of her industry, and she was so excited about it. She did everything right. It was on her goal list. She visualized it. She actually had it on her cell phone so she could look at herself holding this award every day. She invited all of her friends and family to come and share this event with her. The big night comes. She's dressed to the nine, knowing that victory is at hand. She's waiting in the audience with nervous anticipation. The speaker comes up and reads the list of nominations. She hears her name, and she's excited with anticipation about giving this perfectly prepared acceptance speech. The envelope is opened. The name is read, and it's not her. What do you do? Well, I happen to know this person intimately because it was me. I was up for Keynote Speaker of the Year, and I wanted it. It was a picture on my cell phone. I visualized this. I saw this happening. And when I sat there and I heard somebody else's name read, I wanted to curl up and die. I wanted to run out of the theater. But because I had invited all of my friends for dinner, I had to put on that happy face and go have dinner. And the interesting thing is that my friends didn't love me any less because I didn't win. My father and my husband were not any less proud of me because I didn't win. And it ended up being this amazing evening. And when I looked back on what happened that night, I realized the perfection of the evening. Because the woman that did win, Lori, not only was she absolutely delightful, but she had her 102-year-old aunt in the audience. This was the same aunt that when Lori was a little girl, her aunt told her, "You talk so much, you should get paid for it." And she planted in Lori that seed to speak. So it was perfection. So how do you get to gratitude from something that you wanted so badly to be able to find that appreciation and celebrate someone else's victory and the perfection of the night? You can do that by harnessing the power of appreciation. Now, I started my own practice in 2009. It was a result of going to a seminar with three friends. And you know when you go to one of those seminars and it's going to be the seminar, right? Where it's going to change everything in your life. And so what do? Yeah, you've been there, right? You go there and on Monday you go back to work and you are putting all these practices and principles into place, getting so much done. And on Tuesday is when you realize that your coworkers aren't necessarily impressed with your newfound enthusiasm. Wednesday, you're still jamming. Thursday, not so much. And of course, on Friday, you are right back at the coffee machine, grousing along with everyone else. Is it just me, or have we been there before? Well, my friends and I didn't want that to happen again. So we opened up a Facebook thread. And every day we'd share things that we learned at the seminar, people we met, experiences that we had. And just for the heck of it, we said, hey, let's write down 3 things that we're grateful for. We did that every day. We held each other accountable. Within a very short period of time, I noticed that things in my life were starting to change. I was in medical sales at the time, and customers I hadn't talked to for months were calling me, hey, can you come in and sell us some stuff? Sure, I'll be right there. There were 2 facilities that I'd been calling on for 5 years that closed effortlessly. My husband started being more verbally appreciative, and believe me, it was not because I was keeping the house any cleaner. All of these things that were happening, and the only thing that I had changed was this practice of gratitude. So being in medical sales, when I was used to having to clinically document everything I ever said, that's where the research began. And after reading hundreds of reports and papers and books and attending programs, I found that there was so much more to gratitude than this feel-good emotion that we normally associate with it. And there was one study that was done by Dr. Robert Emmons at the University of California at Davis, and he took a random group of students and divided them into 3. The first group, he had them write down everything that they were grateful for every day. Second group, all the troubles, all the hassles, all the things that bugged them. And the third group simply recorded the day's events. They were the control group. And what he found after 10 weeks is that the gratitude group was actually 25% happier. They complained less often. They were more happy, joyful, enthusiastic. They worked out an hour and a half more than the other 2 groups. They actually had fewer physical ailments. So Dr. Emmons decided to interview all the people that were associated with the gratitude group to see if they noticed any difference. And they did. They actually found that they were more emotionally available and nicer to be around. So I did my own research. I posted a question on social media. And the question was, how do you incorporate gratitude and appreciation into your business? Now, Amy, that is an innocent question, right? You expect the standard vanilla answer. It wasn't to be. The very first response I received was, you don't need to incorporate gratitude and appreciation into your business because people are just going to take advantage of you anyway. What do you do with that? I actually called my best friend Patty. I'm like, what do you do with that? So I emailed her back. I said, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. She said, that's all right. I'm a big girl now and I'm moving on. So I emailed her back. I said, you know, this might sound rather silly, but if you would take my 30-day challenge, it may help. For the next 30 days, simply write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for every day. And at the end, let me know how it worked out. She said, I'll do that right away. Thanks for being so positive. I'm like, who are you and what did you do with Grouchy Girl? So we stayed in touch over the course of the next couple weeks. And about a month went by and I emailed her to see how things went. And she said, you know, it's interesting. I went on vacation and I haven't been feeling that much difference, but other people noticed. It makes no difference if you actually believe that gratitude works, but just going into it with an open heart. And that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at what happens when you sow the seeds of gratitude. Now, I'm an acronym girl, so in just about all of my programs, there's some kind of acronym. Today, we're using SOW, S-O-W. We're going to look at the self, our relationship with others, and our wealth. So the self. How does a gratitude practice change your perspective? We've taken a look at it already from the studies. But personally, it gives you the opportunity to look for the good no matter what is going on in your life. Almost exactly a year into my gratitude practice, again, I was in medical sales, and I was invited to an organizational announcement. I didn't think anything of this. I mean, I had just closed the Cleveland Clinic, for goodness sake. I was having my best year ever, number 5 in the company, well on my way to winning the sales trip for the first time. So I didn't think anything of it. Morning of the conference call comes, and my friend from the Columbus rep calls, and she says, hey, the conference call's been switched to 11:30. I said, really? I didn't get that email. She said, you weren't on the list. What is going on? So the conference call went a little something like this. Yeah, we're going through severe financial problems right now. The company's going to lose $10 million. By the way, your position's been eliminated effective immediately. Please stay off the phone so our outplacement firm can call you, and we're not going to answer any questions. You'll have to wait till you get your package from FedEx, and then HR will call you. Goodbye. I was shaking, sitting in my office, not having any idea what to do. But I had been doing this gratitude practice, so I said, okay, what is it about this situation right now that I can be grateful for? Did a little meditation, went into the silence, and a piece of paper from 1989 popped into my head. I wrote it when I was 6, if you're doing the math. On the piece of paper was my goal list with 80 different items on it. Number 1, buy a house. Check, had done that. Number 2, become a professional motivational speaker. And number 3, write a book. And it was almost like this physical weight lifted from my shoulders as I realized that working 70 or 80 hours a week wasn't going to give me the opportunity to reach goals that had been on my list for 20 years. So whenever I tell this story, people will automatically say, oh, it sounds like a blessing in disguise. And my response to that is, there was no disguise. Whatever is happening in your life, when you get into a consistent practice of looking for the good, you can literally take any situation and find gratitude within it. But it's starting that practice and starting where you are. Because some of you may be like this woman that I had coffee with a couple years ago. Did you ever have coffee with a person that can literally suck the life right out of the room? Yeah, it was one of those meetings. She said, Lisa, you don't understand. I got nothing to be grateful for. I said, really? Did you wake up in a warm bed this morning? Yeah. When you flicked a light switch, did electricity happen? Yeah. Do you have running water and flushing toilets? Yeah. Start there. We oftentimes look for the really good in our life, or sometimes we look for the really bad. Yeah, we got into an accident, but we weren't hurt and we get a new car. You know, it's almost easier to find what to be grateful for on both extremes versus everyday life. And how do you do that? With a gratitude journal. So that's homework lesson number 1. If you don't already have some kind of consistent practice, and I know we just received these beautiful journals today, so use that. Put it on your nightstand. And before you go to bed tonight, or when you wake up tomorrow morning, write down 5 things that you're grateful for. It takes less than 2 minutes. And I promise you that if you do this practice consistently for 30 days, if you don't notice the change, others will. So speaking of others, how does gratitude transform our relationships? How many of you have seen the movie Avatar? In the movie Avatar, the blue people, the Na'vi people, greeted each other with the words, I see you. Now this is more than a greeting, it's an acknowledgement. And something that we really kind of get away from, because we assume that the people that we love know how we feel about them. And from what I have found of more of my own personal research, I have found that every single person in my life, including all of my friends in this audience, have failed Mind Reading 101. So unless you take the time to express your feelings to the people in your life, they don't necessarily automatically know. And when's the times that we say the nicest things about people? It's at their funeral, isn't it? There's Johnny's laying out flat, and you're extolling his virtues about what a wonderful guy he was. He's not hearing. Okay, he probably is hearing somewhere, but wouldn't it have been better to share that while he was still on the planet? I actually think that it should be illegal to ever say anything at someone's eulogy that you did not tell them while they were still on the planet. And sometimes as a speaker, and I know several of my speaker friends in the audience can attest to this, you know when your words come back to bite you, and you have to live by what you're saying up here? So I have been saying that eulogy thing for a couple years. And a couple years ago, I had the opportunity to have a final conversation with my first husband, who was losing his battle with stage 4 pancreatic and liver cancer. And Jeff and I, even though we had been divorced for many years, we still remained friends. He was a guy that I met when I was 14. I started dating when I was 16, got engaged at 19, married at 23, divorced at 25, because I knew I could change him. So Jeff had been given 6 months to live, and 18 months later, he was still holding on. And he was making his goodbye phone calls. And I was one of the people that Jeff called. And Jeff and I had a nice conversation for a couple minutes, and I hung up the phone, and then my own words came back to me, and I said, if I was reading Jeff's eulogy, would I have said everything to Jeff that I wanted to? And I realized the answer was no. So there's the one little voice, the devil on my shoulder saying, don't call him back, don't bother him. I mean, he's going to be dead soon. You don't want to, he's got to making these phone calls and it's going to be hard. Don't do it, leave him alone. And on the other shoulder, the voice was saying, you need to have that conversation. So I called Jeff back. And we had this amazing conversation where there was closure, and Jeff passed away a week later. And I don't share that story all the time, but sometimes I get moved, depending on the audience, that I want to share it, because generally the person that was supposed to hear it in the audience always makes themselves known. So a gentleman came up to me after one of my programs and said that he lost his wife after an extended illness. And she never wanted to admit that she was dying. And out of respect for her, he never had that conversation. And to this day, he regrets it. So think about that one person that needs to hear from you today, and call them and tell them that you appreciate them. When you tell somebody you appreciate them, you create this beautiful memory. When you write it down, though, you create a treasure. So thinking about that person and exactly what it is that they mean to you, and take out a piece of that paper from that notebook that you just got. A piece of notebook paper, a thank you note, it doesn't matter. But write that person a letter, because when you go here and you say, who needs to hear from me? Somebody's going to pop into your head. And that's the person, and you have no idea why you're supposed to share that. But I can guarantee that when you do, they will know that is exactly what I needed to hear today. So you've taken a look at the self and how keeping a gratitude journal helps us. We've taken a look at our relationship with others and the importance of expressing to the people that we love how important they are to us. So how does this work in our business? How does this work from a standpoint of wealth? Dan Kennedy, who's a marketing guru, actually conducted a study about why customers stop doing business with a company. And there were lots of little reasons. 1% of them die. Not a thing you're going to do with those people. 3% move away, 5% switch due to a friend's recommendation. All these little answers, all these little reasons that add up to 32%. So what happens to the other 68%? 68% of the time when a customer stops doing business with a company, it's because that customer feels ignored, unappreciated, or taken for granted. We all know the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. 80% of our income comes from 20% of our customers. But who do we pay the most attention to? The ones that are annoying, the ones that are costing us money because we're trying to put out fires, and ignoring the people that are the ones that are making our businesses fun, the reason why we got into business. So every time you get an order, a thank you note, letter, Thank you emails are okay, but I'll tell you what, if that's your only form of communication with your customers, stop it. Stop it. Notes. Place a phone call, fax, text, send bulky packages through the mail, because you want to be top of mind when that customer is thinking about your product or service, and extending your appreciation to them and their business so that they're more than just a pocketbook to you, that you enjoy calling on them and you let them know that. So how can it work for us personally? With wealth, it's being grateful for what you have right here and right now. And if you think about what's in your wallet, sounds like a commercial, doesn't it? What's in your wallet? I always wanted to say that from the stage. Now I've had the opportunity. But think about what's in your wallet, whether there be $1 or several $100s, or if your wallet's completely filled with plastic like mine is, be grateful for that. Be grateful for the creditors that actually trust you to pay them back. And how is your money put in your wallet? Is it just shoved in there carelessly? Or is it neatly arranged in denomination order? We treat our money the way that we want it to treat us because we're grateful for it. And we're so incredibly blessed. In the United States, poverty level is $11,670. Yet, if you go to a website called globalrichlist.com, and there's several sites like this, but I've gone to Global Rich List, and you type in $11,670, you know what you will find? You will find that you are one of the 14.668% richest people on the planet. We are so incredibly blessed, and we need to look at the ways that we can invest in ourselves, invest in our wealth by being grateful for the things that we have. And thinking of the difference between that poverty mindset and that wealth mindset. The poverty mindset, oh, I can't afford that $20 book. I can't afford that $97 program. Are you kidding? I have bills to pay. Wealth mindset. You mean that program, if I pay $2,500, I can increase my business by $250,000? Where do I sign up? Poverty mindset. 90-inch plasma screen television goes on sale on Black Friday for only $2,500. They find the money, don't they? We look at the opportunities to invest in ourselves, to be grateful for what we have, and to look at how we want our lives to be in the future by being grateful and appreciating what we have. So you've taken a look at the self, and starting your gratitude journal today is going to make a huge difference. Your relationship with others, making sure that you're communicating how much you appreciate and love them, and your wealth. To not take for granted that we live in the most magnificent country on the planet, and the little things in life starting right here and right now. So what happens when you want something so badly and you have no control over it? December 31st, there was 105 days left to a very significant birthday. Now, some of you in the audience might be saying, wow, she looks great for 30. And I love you for that. And there's other people that are saying, she's finally going to be 40. Not so much, but I love you anyway. No, exactly 6 days from now, I will be celebrating my 50th birthday. The unfortunate thing, though, is that even in my countdown, when I would tell my husband, Scott, only 83 more days. Paid no attention. Scott, 71 more days. In one ear, out the other. He was not placing the amount of importance on my birthday, so I felt that I had to continuously remind him. Scott, only 60 days. His response? can you pass the potatoes, please? So I had to give up. I was talking to my friend Diane, and I was lamenting about this situation. And she said, Lisa, you need to tell Scott exactly what it is that you want for your birthday. And I said, but Diane, I really want a surprise party. She said, yeah, you're right. You really can't tell him that. So I had to let it go. Reminding him, still along the way, but I had to let it go. And I really wanted that. But sometimes things don't turn out the way that you expect. A week before St. Patrick's Day, Scott and I were talking. He said, hey, why don't we do our corned beef and cabbage night on Saturday night instead of like a Sunday like we always do? Okay, fine. That's all right. He said, and you're going to make the cabbage and noodles, right? Yes, honey, I'll make the cabbage and noodles. He said, okay, well, why don't you call and see if your mom wants to come over? Now, my mother was visiting from Atlanta. My sister Christine had actually brought her in for a couple days. So I called up my mom, invited her to the party, and she said, Christine bought tickets for this dinner at her church. I can't come over, sorry. I'm like, oh, you know, I know that Christine paid for mom to be here and everything, but she didn't have to be such a mom hog. So I called my dad, and I said, Dad, you want to come over for corned beef and cabbage? He said, no, I'm going to an 80-year-old birthday party. I can't come. All right, I'm going to be stuck with the in-laws. So all week, Scott is asking me about the corned beef and cabbage. Yes, I'm going to make it on Saturday. It takes an hour. It'll be fresh. It'll be fine. I'm getting done with my corned beef and cabbage on Saturday. My mother calls me. She said there was a huge water main break at the church of Christine's church, so Christine and Tim are going to go clean up the church. Can I come over for corned beef and cabbage? Sure, why not? I'll come pick you up. Then my father calls. Hey, I'm home from the birthday party. Can I come over for corned beef and cabbage? And then I'm thinking, it was an 80-year-old birthday party. Of course it was during the day. Yes, Dad, I'll come to pick you up. So I went to pick up my mother. Scott called, hey, can you pick up some creamer? Sure. Stopped at the store, picked up creamer, went to get my mom. Coming over home to pick up my dad. But Scott called again, hey, can you pick up a bag of ice? Oh, sure. I wanted to be there before my family got there, for goodness sake. My mother was going to sleep over, come and hear me speak the next day, so she had all of her stuff with her. We pull in the driveway. My niece pulls in behind me, and I'm like, well, at least I beat somebody here. So I'm irritated. I'm picking up my mom's suitcase, her pillow bag of ice creamer, lugging everything into the house, put it all down, and I heard, surprise! I think what I liked most about the evening was that 3 seconds where my brain was trying to process exactly what happened. Sometimes when you really, really want something and you're willing to let it go, it happens and it's bigger and better than you could have possibly imagined. And in this, there were 3 lessons that I learned. Lesson number 1, the people that love you the most are the most effective at lying to you. There was no water main break at that church. Thank goodness, my sister and Tim were there that night. Lesson number 2, spouses really are listening. And lesson number 3, when you're willing to go to your heart, to really want something, but you're equally ready to let it go and accept with gratitude and appreciation no matter what happens, it works out bigger and better than you could possibly imagine. When you sow the seeds of gratitude, you reap amazing, amazing results. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you.